All right, once again, please, I just ask everyone to please wear a mask and please wear it properly if you plan to attend. We have a Zoom as an option or YouTube video, I should say, if you don't want to wear masks. So please wear your masks. Thank you.
Is there a speaker down there or something? Like the mic is there quiet? You can't hear you at all.
Is that better? I'll speak up a little bit more. Is that a little bit better? Okay. All right. So we will start the meeting at 7 o'clock, and we start the meeting with a pledge of allegiance. Please, everyone stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Next on the agenda, Chair to select order of business. I do not have any changes to the order of business. We'll move on to new business. And we have the mask mandate. So I'm going to start the conversation by having a motion, and then we can have discussion after my motion. So I will motion that with the expected expiration of the current statewide mask mandate on February 28, 2022, unless the wearing of masks and/or appropriate face coverings in schools are required by federal or state law, effective February 28, 2022, on other such date set by binding state or federal authority for the expiration of such mask mandate through June 30th, 2022, the wearing of such masks or face coverings in the New Hartford Public Schools shall be optional. The board acknowledges that under current federal order, masks remain required on school transportation at this time.
Second.
Any questions on the motion? Second by Tom. Everyone understand the motion?
I have a question.
Sure.
So I emailed Lieutenant Governor Weisswitz, and the response I got was, amongst other things, in consultation with the Department of Health and blah, 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 the government has decided to eliminate the statewide requirement for masks to be worn in all schools and child care centers effective Monday, 28th. So I'm asking, Monday, 28th, the children will not be wearing masks.
That was my motion, that masks effective pending any
Correct, but just to
regulatory
be clear, it's on that Monday.
on Monday, February 28th.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
I can send the motion to everyone.
No, I just wanted to clarify. Thank you.
Brian, do you have any updates on the legislative action? I know it changes daily and
Thank you, Carl. Good evening, everyone. I do want to go over very important metrics right now before the board votes tonight. And most of the metrics are moving in a very positive direction to make masks optional. Over the last 2 weeks, we've had 8 cases in New Hartford in the public schools as far as students and staff. That's less than 1 a day, which we've had in our surges here over the last 2 years, 6, 7, 8 a day with students and staff. As far as cases, positive cases in the entire town of New Hartford, over the last 2 weeks, we've had 30 cases. It's been up to 170 cases at the peak of the surge over the last 2 years. Hospitalizations are down in the state, in the area. Also, vaccination rates have been increasing. So with all of that, I think the time is right to move to mask optional starting on February 28, 2022. I do want to mention a few points of order and inform the board. As Carl just mentioned in his motion, it is still a federal law as far as students masking on the bus. Once again, that's a federal law, so we don't have any choice with that as far as that's concerned. Carl's motion as well, with the new power vested in the Connecticut State Legislature, and Governor Lamont did sign that today. It does cede authority to the Connecticut Department of Education and Connecticut Department of Public Health. If there are surges, that they have the authority to issue mask mandates in the state. Once again, as Carl mentioned, that'll be up to June 30th, 2022. It's up in the air to see if they will utilize that power. So we still don't know that. I do want to commend the entire administrative team, the staff, and I want to thank all the parents for their cooperation and patience. It's been a very difficult 2 years for all of our students and our families. I want to say thank you for your cooperation. We've done our best. We follow the state laws and the guidelines to keep kids and staff safe over the last 2 years. So I'm very proud of our efforts. Does anyone have any questions on metrics or any part of the legislation?
Brian, the authority giving it to the State Department of Education and Department of Health, have they, I know what that was just given, so any initial guidance there, or?
No, they're still coming out.
Okay,
That guidance probably within the next week.
okay, so we would expect it by the 28th, I would assume.
Hopefully.
Okay.
I've been asked this question. I know the answer, but I think it's important that everybody else knows the answer as well. I'm sure that these are questions that are going to come up, but one of them being, what does it mean for staff, students, obviously staff are going to be unvaccinated, but unvaccinated students, do they have to wear masks?
No, it's.
Carl, can you ask her to speak up, please?
I know the answer to that question.
Sure.
It's a hypothetical because I'm getting asked that question.
Sure.
So I want to make sure that everybody hears it.
So regardless if you're unvaccinated or vaccinated, masks are optional starting February 28, 2022.
You cannot discriminate.
That's correct, yes.
As far as liability, Brian, are there waivers that need to be signed, or is it just a broad accepted? and-
Yes. There are not any waivers that anyone has to sign.
Very complicated.
And if I could just add to, so,
All right, can I add something, Carl?
Sure. I'm getting a little
So I think-
feedback.
Am I allowed to add something?
That's better. No, we're good.
I just wanted to state that it really doesn't seem to me, I know Kelly just said that people are asking her whether or not there should be unvaccinated or vaccinated to wear a mask. So I want to put it on record that it really doesn't matter whether you're unvaccinated or vaccinated, because people are still getting COVID with a mask, with, being triple jabbed, with the boosters and everything else. So I really want to keep the conversation from whether or not we're vaccinated or unvaccinated, because then that becomes very discriminatory. So I want to make sure that that's put in writing. It doesn't really matter whether you're vaxxed or you're not vaxxed. Everyone else is still getting COVID. So I just want to make sure that we put that in writing.
The point was, the point of bringing that up is because folks were asking that question. So you need to put that out there and make it clear that, I don't know if you heard what Brian said. I wanted him to reiterate to everyone else and make sure that it was clear that whether or not you're vaccinated has nothing to do with mask wearing. Everybody is, it's going to be optional for everyone, regardless of whether you're vaccinated or not. You aren't allowed to discriminate, and that's what we were talking about.
Yeah, okay, perfect.
Right.
I just want to make sure that
Yes.
we're not discriminating,
Nope.
that we're pointing anyone out, because
Nope.
it really makes no difference whether we're vaxxed or not. There's people still getting COVID in both cases. So I just want to make sure we're clear about that.
Anybody else?
Were you going to add something, Brian?
yes, it was, thank you. So if the board approves the move to make masks optional, there will be some mitigating efforts and strategies that'll be changed, and I will highlight them tomorrow in a message, in a letter to all parents and staff.
For clarity's sake, since we want to make sure things are clear, is the power to say we need to or don't need to wear masks lie here with this board? Or does that power lie with the Department of Education and the local health department?
Department of Education and Department of Public Health.
So if they make a change, then we have to follow.
If there's a surge, yes.
Okay,
We'll see if they're going to utilize that power.
okay. Unless they decide to
Right.
create some language that gives the power to the actual Board of Education. Okay.
Well, they have now. They haven't handed that power off to us.
They haven't handed that power off to us. So that power has been still, the legislation, the way that reads, it's with the Department of Education and
But they're allowing us to make this decision on our own, right?
No, that's
Not yet.
changed. I think Travis is referring to previously.
I think, oh,
on Monday's legislation was that power is with the Department of Education and they can then give that power to us to make this decision.
So they're making it optional. School districts could make the decision to have masks optional starting February 28th. With that, there is power that's ceded to the Connecticut Department of Education, Connecticut Department of Public Health, as far as if there are surges in the state, in a specific town, in the school district, then they can mandate mask wearing. So,
And then at that point, we no longer have the power
That's
to
correct.
go against them.
That's
We have to
correct.
follow them.
Is,
There's no pushback.
Correct.
is that just through the 30th, Carl?
Through June 30th?
yes. Yes.
Through June
Is that
30th.
just through June 30th that they have the ability to say, hey, we're taking the mask, you have to put the mask back on, and then it expires in June 30th? Is that
Yes.
correct?
That's correct.
Brian said yes.
Okay.
But it expires on June 30th, because this school year, not next school year.
That's correct. That's correct.
So it could change in September.
Anything could change, but that's the plan right now.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions, comments, discussion?
And obviously, we're still required, if there are positive cases, same protocol for reporting positive cases to parents.
Yes, so the plan is that we will continue to put positive cases on our dashboard, on our website, as we're doing now. It's updated on a regular basis. However, Kelly, I think what you might be getting at as far as the school district starting on February 28th, going to continue to inform parents through a letter or email, that will not happen. That will cease to happen as far as that's concerned. If a student or staff member tests positive, then they do all have to go into isolation. That'll continue. But as far as close contacts, we will not be mandating or directing parents that their child has to stay home. I want to make it very clear, this will not change. If your child or a staff member is feeling ill, they should not come to school.
Brian, mask aside, do we have, you have a record of what children are vaccinated? Is that to your knowledge, or is that private?
So several weeks ago, the Connecticut State Department of Education did allow school districts, and we followed suit as far as New Hartford, to voluntarily ask parents if their child, they're vaccinated. So we do have a record, but once again, that's not mandated and it was not required. So we do have a list, but it's not 100%.
Thank
You're welcome.
So just again, so on report of a positive case, we are still following the health, Farmington Health District requirements for quarantine of a positive case.
That's correct.
Not a close contact.
That's correct.
And you had mentioned real quick, you had said that you're going to send out a notice tomorrow, should the board motion to approve this.
Yes.
With some changing policies or changing plans. Can you elaborate a little bit about, just in summary?
Yes, sure. So as I mentioned, that will not be through letter or email, through principals or the superintendent as far as informing parents when there's a positive case. As far as through letter or email, it will be on our website if parents or stakeholders want to view that. As far as close contacts, and that was messaged out to parents a few weeks ago, that we just do the close contact tracing during lunch. So that's been limited the last few weeks anyways, because we were given the flexibility from the state on that. So contact tracing will effectively end. So that's a change, Tim, as you're talking specific, as far as what you're talking about there. So there's not going to be any mandated quarantines with contact tracing as well. So those are some of the highlights and the changes to our mitigation strategies. We will continue to social distance when appropriate. We will continue to use our hand washing protocols as far as our highlighted and updated cleaning protocols in the district. And we also have, as the parents and the board know, we do have a limited rapid at-home test that we have in our school health offices as well. If a child is feeling sick and a parent would like a test, we do have them in our schools as well. So those are some of the highlights of the changes to our protocols.
With this, is there going to be any change with needing to wear masks at Board of Ed meetings and functions after school that are still on school property?
Yes, so that will continue with the consistency of the flexibility of mask wearing and being optional. So masks will not be mandated after school at Board of Ed meetings.
So with that as well, are we getting rid of the Zoom with our Board of Ed meetings so that everyone is physically in attendance?
Sure. So that requirement goes into April. It'll be up to the board if they want to extend that past April for board members to Zoom in during meetings.
Is there any, can we add that to our motion that on the 30th, we all are going to start showing up physically, or?
April what?
Carl, can I step in, please, on this conversation? Because obviously they're talking about me and zooming in.
Sure.
So I think I've made it very clear the reason I'm zooming in. I'm highly against
Hold
the
on,
masks.
hold on 1 second, Deirdre.
Travis, instead of amending this motion that came to us via, I believe, our attorney,
Yeah,
a separate motion can be made afterwards,
okay,
and that can be voted on separately.
great. And after April 30th, we'd be able to say, because masks are then optional, there's not a reason for the Zoom, correct?
Correct, we could.
Well.
What's the April 30th date? I'm gonna
I mean, it's-
That's gonna be a separate motion. Let's not,
Yeah, let's
We're
not,
on,
Yeah,
we're
let's
on, we're on this motion.
yeah, we'll stick on this.
But Deirdre, did you want to say something? Sorry.
Yeah, so I'm not sure that everyone's aware of why I'm attending on Zoom, or are they? I'm attending on Zoom because I don't believe in wearing a mask to a meeting when we were never wearing a mask for quite some time. So when the masks become optional, which hopefully they will tonight, I will be in attendance. So that's the reason I'm attending by Zoom, again, just for the record.
Okay.
So when the masks become optional, I will be in person and be fully present as I am tonight on Zoom.
I mean, well, we'll talk about it after, but I have an opinion on that as well. Any other questions on the motion for discussion?
I guess, actually, I do have one more question. So, say we leave the choice, we vote and leave it optional up to the parents. And in 3 weeks, we have 40 kids out with COVID. Do we as a board get are we stuck to that decision, or do we get the chance to revisit masking? I know it's a hypothetical, but just to leave the door open in case we need to address that for some reason.
I don't think the board needs to address that again. It does not, no.
That would come from Board of Education or a health department, correct?
Well, I mean, I meant specifically for
Yeah.
our schools,
So,
So I think that guidance will come from Farmington Valley.
yeah, the only mandate will come once again from the Connecticut Department of Education and the Connecticut Department of Public Health, as far as mandates for that.
Okay.
Any last questions? Discussion? Does anyone want me to read the motion again?
No, please don't.
I can
You
send it
think
to
you
anyone.
should, though?
I
One more-
second.
Would you like me to?
I think you should, one more time for everybody.
All right. Let me take a deep breath. Okay, the motion is that with the expected expiration of the current statewide mask mandate on February 28, 2022, unless the wearing of masks and/or appropriate face coverings in schools are required by federal or state law effective February 28, 2022, or other such date set by binding state or federal authority for the expiration of such mask mandate through June 30th, 2022, the wearing of such masks or face coverings in the New Hartford Public Schools shall be optional. The board acknowledges that under federal order, masks remain required on school transportation at this time. Okay,
Second.
Tom already second.
All in favor?
All in favor? Unanimous. Thank you, everybody. All right, moving on to public comment and communication. I did receive 4 pieces of correspondence via email regarding mask mandates and one regarding the school year, which I forwarded on to Penny to add to the minutes of the meeting. So now we'll have public comment. For public comment tonight, 5 minutes shall be allotted to each speaker and a maximum of 20 minutes to each subject matter. No boisterous conduct shall be permitted at any Board of Education meeting. Persistence in boisterous conduct shall be grounds for summary termination by the chairperson of that person's privilege of address. If necessary, the chairperson may clear the room so the board can continue the meeting. No oral presentation shall include charges or complaints against any employee of the Board of Education, regardless of whether or not the employee is identified in the presentation by name or by any other reference which tends to identify that individual. All charges or complaints against employees shall be submitted to the Board of Education under provisions of Board of Education policy. So that being said, anyone like to come speak tonight? And if you can state your name and address, please.
Take this off. Tim Russell, Evergreen Crossing. I wrote up a speech. I actually wasn't going to speak tonight, depending on how this vote went, but the way that the conversation went, there seems like so many stipulations on it that I think probably the speech is a little bit relevant. I'd like to tell a little bit of a story. So I'm here tonight because I have 3 children. I love them more than life itself. One of which is my 6-year-old daughter, who is currently enrolled in New Hartford schools. See, it's interesting because last week she asked me why she still has to wear a mask in school, and I didn't have an answer for her. Imagine the confusion from a child who observes no one wearing a mask in any other setting, but is forced to do it at school. How can she not be confused? I'm confused, especially when the science has proven that masks do not work and children have very little to no risk of COVID. Can reference the McKinley study, Stanford study, among many others. But I'm not here to argue the point because it will get lost. I'm here to provide a little history, specifically to talk about liberty and how our forefathers sacrificed their lives so we would have liberty. As we know, in 1776, this country declared independence from Britain. And in doing so, they provided 27 reasons for why they declared that independence. I'm not going to read them, but I'll tell you every single example had to do with government overreach, oppression of liberties, and oppression of liberties and freedoms. The crazy thing is, every example given fits with how government treats us today. Liberty is defined as the power to do as one pleases, freedom of physical restraint, and most importantly, the power of choice. It's clear that our forefathers would be disgusted with America today and disappointed with our local schools and government. But this made me think about myself. As the board knows, I'm a police officer. And when I was hired 16 years ago, I gave an oath to uphold the Constitution of the United States. And my primary duty to the Constitution is to protect the liberties of the people I serve. Yeah, people will say, well, what about the laws? And I have an answer for them. Laws were made to protect people's liberties, not to take them away. Government was also made to protect people's liberties, not to tell Americans when they have and when they don't have liberty. And you, as the Board of Ed, have also taken an oath to protect our children's liberties. Unfortunately, we're failing our children. As the Constitution further states, any law that contradicts the Constitution is null and void. So the Board of Ed has been following a law that's not real. We have strayed so far from what America is that we might as well refer to this country as Great Britain and start giving people the title of king and accepting that we are servants to the crown. Or we can make a change. We can start here and bring back integrity to our community. When another illegal mandate arrives, we say no and respond with the 14th Amendment, which protects life, liberty, and property. Remember, these are unalienable rights that were given to us merely just for being born. Stop giving these rights away. Stop masking our children and stop destroying their education. Help me. Help our community. And for God's sake, help our children so they can learn to be free. As I did last time, I'll leave off with a quote, which I hope has an effect on your heart and mind. People don't follow title. They follow courage. I think it's time to have some courage. Thank you.
I have to remind everyone that we have to wear masks in the auditorium, please, ma'am. Thank you. Anyone else? Public comment?
I'm not going to walk around with that. I guess I'll stand down here. Rebecca Welsh, Millette Lane. That's going to be like super hard to beat, but I'll do my best. I want to start by thanking you guys for passing this and making masks optional. I speak for a lot of parents when I say that, and kids, that this is long overdue. And I think a lot of us are breathing a huge sigh of relief now. I agree. I did not like some of the questions that were being asked, about vaccines and, what if there's a spike or things like that. That gentleman was absolutely right. Like, we need to stand up and just say no. And this board, there's two members that I can think of that have fought for our kids from the beginning of all of this. Mr. Buzzy, Miss Tyndall, who's, on Zoom. Some other of you, have probably fought quietly. But there are some of you that would honestly love to see our children mass for the rest of their education, who would love to see every human being and every child vaccinated, and aren't accepting the fact that we have the freedom of choice. We did when we were born, we do now. Your opinion of what I should do with my life or my child's life does not matter. So while I do thank you for passing it, I want those of you who support the continued masking of our children to do us all a favor. And next time you see us at our kids' sports games or out in the store or wherever, and you weren't on the right side of our children, just do us a favor and keep on walking, because we're done. We don't want to say hi. We don't want to play nice. We don't want to take part in any of that fakeness, because we won't forget. Like I said, there are many of you that have genuinely fought either publicly or behind the scenes, who have communicated with us openly and honestly. But those of you that have fought against knowing what is best for our children and continuing to do it anyway, just keep on walking, because we're never, ever going to forget what you've done to our kids.
Anyone else? Public comment?
Damon Bean, 251 Cedar Lane. I just wanted to say once again, thank you for making that decision today. And it's really hard to, I'm assuming I can take this off while I talk.
You really need to wear it, sorry.
The scariest part of this is how we all got stuck in this. So this is not the end. I sat in front of you before. We all had no masks on. We had a wonderful conversation as a community in some very difficult issues. It was wonderful. We had different opinions. No one was wearing a mask at that point. And you said, we want more information from the state. Then you got a letter from an attorney. That attorney, those attorneys represent 80% of the districts, okay? We need to find out how this happened, because when I came back, everyone was masked. It was a done deal. The conversation was over. It was no longer a community talking amongst themselves, talking about, the issues at hand, which we should do. We should have open conversation. We're not smashing each other. It was beautiful. Then you got a letter from an attorney. That attorney letter was literally sent to everybody, and it put all of you on notice that you could be personally fined and whatever else they said that they were going to do to you. That is wrong. And this does not end here with the mask. We need to find out who did this, because we know that their pushing of the pandemic, they made money off of it, okay? These attorneys, they got money from Gavi. Hopefully people know what Gavi is. Most of the money that went to these attorneys was coming from organizations that wanted to continue the idea of the pandemic, and they made lots of money, lots and lots of money. And they made you mask, shut us up, and then stop everything because they threatened you. We cannot have that happen again. So we need to follow the money. We need to find out. There's so much money flying covert over behind the scenes that we have to find out how this happened. And that's all I want to say to you. I love that you're doing it. I think everyone's trying to do the best they can, but we really need to not have this happen again. And we need to follow that money and hold those accountable that put our children, I think, harmed them for their profit. There is a money line. We can follow that, and we will do that. And that's the next step after this. Thank you for your time.
Hello, Jesse Campbell, 38 Maple Hollow. For all those in favor, seems like we're all in favor, I'll send my sincere gratitude. Despite what everybody has amongst themselves, let's not forget, this is not about you, none of you. This is our children's education. And I've seen a steady declination of academic performance in my household. I have 4 kids in the New Hartford School District, Regional 7. This is the 3rd calendar year, and it's all going downhill. So I'm very happy of all those in favor of an optional mask. However, it seems a little sketchy. Throw us a bone, take the bone, run with it, and then we get hooked. So none of you, maybe you could be aware. Everybody, all these chips will fall into play, but hopefully it's not what I think it is. And by June 30th, we're right back to where we were, and they got us where they want us. So I just want to say thank you. If this is recorded as high as it can go, thank you for giving us the option.
Anyone else?
Hey, guys.
How are you?
Tim Goff, 50 Birdsview Avenue. I was just sitting at home watching the live feed, and I ran from the parking lot to get here. I just wanted to come up and say thank you. Sitting on this board in that position for 4 years, dealing with the mask thing for the last 2.5 years has been difficult for you guys. I know because I sat there and I listened to the comments, and I wanted to come up and in person say thank you. I listened to some of the comments that were stated tonight, and it's disgusting that you're being told that you're going to be ignored on the ball fields and things like that. It's absolutely atrocious comments, atrocious behavior. Saying that that there are some of you that want kids in masks permanently couldn't be further from the truth, because it was a unanimous vote. I thought that pretty much the writing was on the wall there. So I wanted to say thank you as a former board member and a lot of your friends for what you did tonight, and know that most of the public are behind you and will be happy to talk to you on the ball fields, knowing that you unanimously voted to unmask our kids tonight. It was the right decision. The questions were well thought out. The public doesn't understand that you have to ask some of these questions, understand the vaccine questions and that sort of thing. Ultimately, you voted unanimously, made the right decision. So personally, as a lot of your friends, I say thank you. Nice job.
Thank you.
Anissa Zucker, 10 Kellogg Road. Thank you so much. It's been just a rough couple of years, and I'm just very appreciative of everything everyone's done. You know, like everyone has said, it's been a long, hard road for all of us, and we've all made our sacrifices in whatever capacity that may seem to our families. And I do honor you for being able to do what you do. I could never do it. I'm a teacher. I'm an independent contractor. I love what I do. I love to teach. I love to see smiles. That's what I miss the most. I miss smiles. I did continue working in a capacity that I can do with my family. But at the same time, during this pandemic, it's been very difficult to compartmentalize some of this stuff. You know, just for me and my family, it's been challenging. I'm an independent contractor, like I said, and I work at home, and I've been in front of a screen looking at kids on Zoom and everything else. I'm sure you've all experienced that. And I'm hoping to get back to the real normal, not the new normal. There is no new normal. That's a play on words, just like everything else has been a play on words. And I'm just really appreciative of everyone who's been stepping up and been, going out into the public and speaking up about what the struggles are in your own family, in your own lives, because this has been challenging for everyone. I just want to say that as a resident here in New Hartford, like I keep saying this over and over, but we moved to Bakerville because of Bakerville schools. So we love Bakerville School. We love the teachers at Bakerville School. We have nothing against the Bakerville School. Absolutely love it. And we're really excited to, get back into the public school. But there's a few things that I have concerns with. Of course, the vaccines. My daughter is grandfathered in because she already has a religious exemption. But, as a homeschooling mom now, it's been making me rethink some of these things. And just as an educator and a mom, I've been concerned about some of the education. So you probably will hear me on this mic multiple times, but hopefully not too many times, because I love working with people and I love to be the bridge. My intention is to be the bridge between homeschooling networks and public school people, because I have lots of friends on both sides. And I really want the community to come together so that we can work together as a team to make things work. Whether or not you're vaccinated unvaccinated, whatever your status is, that doesn't matter. What matters to me is the heart. And whatever you believe in, whatever is speaking to you and bringing you life, just being able to stay strong on your values, on your morals, because we cannot let this happen again. I don't think I could hold it together if it happens again. I am done. Not masking my child. I did for kindergarten, it was fine. But for moving on forward, we don't do that in the grocery stores or anything else. And we're done. We've all had the thing, well, everyone except for me for some reason, but we've had the COVID, it's done. We hope no one else gets sick. I don't really have a big speech. I just want to say thank you so much because, as I said, I have no idea what it must be like to be you. Not political. I didn't want to be political. Just because I run the Unmask Our Kids New Hartford Facebook group means nothing to me. It's all to the glory of God for me. That's just what I believe in. I believe in God. And I'm trying to follow his will for me, which is total change in my life because I've never really done that before because I've had too much fear, I've just wanted to do my job, come home, make dinner, and be done with it. And all this stuff has been like such a mind boggle for me. I don't want to this isn't a soapbox. It's just, I just really want you to hear my heart on this, that I just really care about our future of our children's education. I'm an educator. I'm a literacy consultant. I have my master's degree. And I really work with families one-on-one, but I also work in groups. And what I've seen and what I've heard from families that are in the public school still is they're really worried about their kids falling behind. And so I'm here picking up the pieces. And I'm wondering if there's some kind of change, some kind of reform that might be necessary in the public schools. I'm going to end with that. I'm not going to give a whole proposal here, but just going forward, we might need to make some major changes because there's so much going on that I'm hearing from the sidelines. So just keep that in your mind that people are starting to understand that something has to be changed about the education system. There's things that it's not just this. It's not just the masks. It's not just the vaccines. It's also things that are being implemented in the middle school level and in certain education, health and sex education that are not appropriate for kids. So again, I'm not going to go there, but things will need to change. And I'm counting on you guys to stay vigilant about that. I'm very grateful. Thank you so much.
Hello. Kristen Kasiba, 40 Windsor Lane. Brian, I'm sure you'll be happy you won't receive any more emails from me, I promise you. I want to thank you guys tonight. I do think it's 2 years too late, but I do want to thank you for unanimously voting on that. And I just wanted to state that the bus is up March 18th of this year for the masks. Just wanted to let everyone know that. That's it. Thanks.
Bill Marcano, 96 Arrowhead Drive. I know you guys can't answer the questions now or maybe after, but why June 30th is the end? Does that mean if Lamont decides, I want him to mask again, that next school year we're going to be here again asking for permission, begging you guys? That's all. I know you can't answer me now, but maybe when you guys are done, you can explain why June 30th is the date that this vote ends. That's all. Thanks.
All right, anyone else before we close public comment? All right, thank you so much, everyone, for speaking. Oh, we do have one more?
Yeah, you can hold it.
Did you know a virus is actually so tiny it goes through a mask? I'm not sure if you know this because I've been seeing you wear this for both of the board meetings I've been here, and you have also you didn't even change. And by the way, when you said it was a lot, when you said it, well, I think, Brian, when you said it was a lot to me, when I was like, do we wear a mask or not? That wasn't true. It's just a bad law. It's very bad. It's like, segregation. Masks are just like segregation.
That's how you raise an American.
I know I've already been up, but I have to follow up on Indy. Rebecca Welsh, Millett Lane. I have had the honor of knowing little Miss Indy since she was a tiny little toddler. And let me tell you, she is the kindest, brightest, most special young lady that anybody will ever meet. Indy, the best thing about her is that in just her 7 little years of life, not only has she learned the difference between right and wrong, she is brave enough to always, always, always do what is right, no matter what anybody thinks of her, what the consequences will be, the way people will look at her. Indy, no matter what, will always pick what's right. And I'm lucky enough to get to see her every single day, and she is such an inspiration. I'm a better person because of Indy, and she's only 7 years old. So I hope if anyone is in here that doesn't know Indy yet, you guys should take a minute and really meet her, because she is someone that is going to change the world, and mark my words.
Last chance for public comment.
Marcus Rogers, 80 Hidden Hill Road, New Hartford, Connecticut. Attorneys are tough guys on paper, and then when you actually call them out in person, I don't know if what that gentleman over there said was true about the attorney sending a threatening letter to our town, but I think we could have stood alone as a town and not gone with the narrative of whatever the state said. I mean, like the officer said, it's not a law, okay? It was a mandate by our state. So I think if we ever get another threatening letter moving forward, because the numbers do change, that I think this time we stand up against it. Secondly, we talked about numbers. If kids start getting the virus and it starts popping up, 40 students get the virus. Well, I don't know the number of kids, and this might be morbid, that have perished in New Hartford from COVID. Has there been any that we know of? So I think you just shook your head no. I mean, we don't make our kids mask for a stomach flu. We don't make our kids mask for a common cold. So I think we should stand up independently against our state, okay, not be threatened by these attorneys, and we shouldn't mask for COVID again. So not alone. A 7-year-old just stood up in front of you guys. What's the psychological ramification of kids wearing masks? We also have a 7-year-old. We have 2 of their friends that come over and will not unmask. That is not mentally healthy for a 7-year-old kid to think they have to wear a mask consistently all the time. It's just not healthy. So I do thank you guys all for unanimously voting for shooting down the masks. Thanks.
So, Melody Zucker. So I just think that we should fight for the kids' freedom. And okay.
You want to say? This is your chance. You can speak.
I would think that since they called COVID, that might just be a cold.
Good. You say anything else or no? That's good. Y'all done? It's good. I love you no matter what. So that's good. You have anything else? Oh, you have something else? Okay, go for it, because it's a long night, you know?
And also, I really want the preschoolers to be unmasked because I don't think it's right that kids should wear masks, especially young kids.
All right, any other public comment? Last call. All right, thank you so much, everyone, for coming out and speaking. I really appreciate it, and I think the board appreciates the comments as well. It's input from you, the public, that really helps us along the way here. It really is valuable, so we appreciate it. Thank you so much. And if you'd like to stay for the more interesting part of the meeting, when we go through the budget line by line, you're welcome to stay. That'll be our next agenda item. So thank you. Moving on to the superintendent's report, Brian.
So
Let's just. We can talk after the meeting.
Carl, you're going to be going page by page in the budget.
I'm sorry?
You're going to go through the budget, superintendent's report, the budget.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The budget.
Perfect. Perfect.
Nobody gave me that.
All right, Brian, do you have any comments on the budget before we go? We're going to go line by line.
I do not.
Okay. Brian, I did notice on page 8, the summary, it's not a big deal, but you say health insurance, then medical dental.
Yeah.
It's just one or the other. To just put that before the Board of Finance with the right thing. Thank you.
Sure.
All right, so we're going to start, unless anyone has questions on the front pages, we're just going to go line by line, starting on page 14.
Carl, can I ask a question on page 13, please?
Page 13?
Yep. On your kindergarten class, 3 classes, is that 2 Bakerville, 1 New Hartford, or vice versa?
Yeah, Tom, so that'll depend on where incoming kids live. Usually in the past, it has been 2 classes at Bakerville, 1 at New Hartford Elementary School. But once again, we'll review each child and where they live as far as where that demarcation is going to be and where the kids will be going to school. And we'll send letters out in probably late June, early July.
So right now, that 52 is just a dart.
Right.
What would, one more question, just what would be the number to add a section in that? 60 plus, 62?
Yeah, exactly. 60 plus, 61, 62.
And you're feeling pretty safe at this point, right?
I never feel safe, Carl.
No.
But once again, looking at the data points the last few years, That's how I generated that prediction.
I mean, it's really been, it was just the last, well, we were safe until the last kindergarten class, right? When we had 63 or 62. Okay. Any other questions on that? All right, going to page 14. I'm just going to go line by line and let's bring up questions, bring up any topics of discussion line by line in the budget. So regular ed professional staff.
That decreases because we're eliminating the teaching position. That minus 5%, 0.5.
Yes, we're eliminating teaching position, yes.
So that includes salary adjustments plus the removal of the
That's correct.
one
Yes.
position.
But that's just salary, it's not medical.
That's correct,
Correct.
just salary, yeah.
All right, instructional assistants, 112.
Are we getting? Are we getting more in next year? Is that what your plan is?
Getting more what?
Instructional assistants. Are we adding more?
No, we're not adding any more instructional assistants.
I thought we had at one of our meetings where we were adding additional paras.
No, we're
No?
not. We're not at this time.
Okay.
Do you
So-
know off the top of your head, Brian, how many teachers are this regular education staff is?
Yes, so 40, probably 32.
32 teachers?
Yes,
And that's,
it doesn't include special education teachers.
but they're included in the number here or no?
Yes, they're included.
Yeah.
Regular ed teachers are included in that number, yes.
Where are the additional teachers added? The special ed teachers
That's in the special education
on that page?
on that page.
Okay. So it's 32 plus whatever that is. Got it.
All right, anything else there? Moving on to 114, subs. I just had a question on this one, Brian. Like, I know with COVID, the costs were higher with the subs, but you're bringing that down quite a bit. Are you comfortable?
Yes,
Going
I am
forward.
comfortable with that, yeah. Carl, I'm just curious, do we think moving forward, just, maybe any questions on any line items instead of going blind, but
Yeah,
I think it might be best.
okay. We can just go by page?
Yeah,
Wanna
page
do
is the
that?
best, page is the best, yes.
All right, let's stick to page 14. Anything else on 14?
Why is the additional professional responsibility going up?
Yes. So per the teacher's contract, those were set rates as far as the stipends there for those positions. We are adding additional mentors. And the White Memorial faculty too, those are the two driving factors in that line item.
The only thing I'm assuming applies to pre-K.
That's correct.
Anything else on page 14? All right, moving along to 15.
Brian, what's the current student count at correct?
16?
16?
Yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
When do you usually get notified of any changes to that? Is it in the
So-
summer?
It's October 1st.
October
We'll
1st?
get the concrete numbers.
And there's none matriculating out this
Yeah,
year?
there's two.
There's two?
Matriculating out, yes. But you never know who's gonna
Okay,
come in.
so you're assuming they're gonna get replaced?
Yes.
And if they don't, then that money will be applied someplace else?
Then we'll have a surplus in that line item.
Okay.
It's not a heck of a lot, right? Maybe 5,000 or something? It's not.
4,600, the average.
4,600?
Yeah, 4,600.
That's 9,200,
Yeah,
a good chunk.
okay. And you don't have any indication of anyone that might at this point, right?
No.
Okay. Anything else on page 15? All right, page 16. We're good on that regular ed? All right. Any other questions on regular education? All right, moving on to page 17, special ed.
So how many staff do we have in special ed in 111?
Should be 8 staff members there.
Okay.
17.
Any need for us to increase that number?
I do not.
So, Brian, question on the special ed. So our increase to special ed this year was 14,449 on the front page.
Yeah.
So did you mention at one point we lost 2 students, or not lost, but 2 students less on the special ed program?
Yeah,
Is that
so we had, I think you might be referring to outplacement students. We
Yes.
have- Yeah, sure. 4
Yeah.
outplacement students this year, we're moving down to 3 next year. 3.
So this increase in staffing, I'm assuming it's an increase in staffing, a $34,000 increase.
No, we're not increasing staffing. That's just the increase. We did hire a teacher at a higher rate, a special education teacher last year. That is reflected in the increase in this line item for this year.
Okay, so the staffing hasn't changed, it's just
No.
the salary.
That's correct.
Brian, on that summary where on the summary on page 8 where special ed is going up 14,000, what's included in that?
So that's all of the special education line items in addition to transportation as well.
Thank you.
We're pulling those line items.
Okay. So it's really, transportation is driving a lot of that.
Yes.
Okay. Oh, I had a question, Brian, down on line 312, the CREC Regional Magnet Services.
Mhm.
What does that represent?
Yeah, so those are services for students that are part of CREC. They receive special education services, and we have to pay for that as a district.
Why is that cost going up so much?
Just based solely on need, student needs.
Okay.
And how many students do we have in that for 55,000?
So as far as the CREC students, special ed students, I believe it's 2 or 3 students there. that are receiving those services, that are part of that correct population.
Okay.
And each one of these grants that are in there, is that just a one-time thing?
No, those are grants every single year,
Every year they're in there? Yeah.
but they could change from year to year, so those are projections.
Well, we know these figures are good for next year, right?
Yes, they are good for next year, yes.
Anything else on page 17? Page 18?
Can you explain that contracted service item?
Sure. So that is, had a nurse that's been a one-on-one for the last few years. So we will not need that next year, so that's why we have that savings of $88,000. You're welcome.
So the students that the nurse was helping, will we now be paying for that child's education in a different setting?
I don't want to get into too specifics to identify the student with that.
I realize that.
Yes, I will say a general statement that we're obligated by law
Right.
to provide for all of our students that are educated in our district and outside of our district. And they
Okay.
can be very costly, yes.
But is that cost reflected in this year's budget?
It is, yes.
Okay.
And Brian, on the outplacements, you said we went from 4 down to 3,
Yeah,
and that's driving that lower cost there on
Yeah.
560.
yeah.
Anything else on 18? All right, moving on to 19.
Just curious, what is assisted equipment?
That's for hearing impaired students.
Anything else on 19? Any questions on 20? All right, moving on to 21, health services.
Wait a minute, who are we teaching in adult ed?
Who are we teaching? What do you mean?
Well, I mean, what is the adult, what is,
So that's service provided by Ed Advance, and any adults who want to continue their learning, this is the fee that we pay.
oh. Do you know how many people are in it?
I have no idea.
And this has come up in prior years. Are we required to
Yes,
do that?
yes.
We are. Under whose authority? Is it the State Department of Ed or?
Yeah, the state, yes, mandates that we have to provide that service. Yeah.
Could you find out roughly how many people we're doing?
I can call what last year was.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Is that just a set price pretty much each year, Brian, that we have to contribute like other districts do as well? So that
Exactly.
It doesn't matter how many students are being educated?
That's correct, yeah.
Frank, can I ask one more question on page 19 for the special ed total?
Sure.
So, the special ed total left on the front page, like, or the page 86, adds 14,000. So we're at minus 49, call it 50 on special ed.
Yeah.
You said the other part is made up of transportation,
Yes, it's at the end of the budget.
right?
For special ed transportation.
Okay. I guess we're good for that part then.
Yeah.
Can you point that out when we get there?
Sure.
Back to that.
Sure.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I do want to make sure that we can explain that, Brian,
Yeah, that's, is that,
because I'm looking at page 37. I
right,
think
I
this
just
is,
got that.
Yeah.
I don't
So-
see it.
So we went round and round about this page.
We-
It's
yeah, we
always a confusing page. To be quite frankly, I want to take it out. The board is asked to put that in, and it just elicits a lot of questions. I don't really think it's needed, but once again, I know that's been requested before.
I mean, I think it's a good summary.
Yeah.
Just to see what the drivers are,
Yeah, it's confusing, though.
but it is a little confusing, you're right. Because I don't see those numbers adding up on 37 versus,
It pulls in a lot of different line items, not just from the special education portion of the budget.
right. Okay. Tom, you good with that?
Again, I think when we go through, we should, if you can point out what those numbers, what is in that front number.
Sure.
To rehash that front page, will probably be a waste of time, but
Sure.
again, if we get asked from someone, we don't
Right.
have an answer then.
Sure. Even if you just pull, what are all the numbers that it pulls in? You can just, so we understand what it is. Sure. Thank you.
Yep.
All right, page 21, health services.
The 3.8 is the contract in salaries.
Yes, those are the salaries, yep.
You also had some replacements there, right? So that
Yes,
reflects the current staff.
Yeah, we have to replace the new nurse, yeah.
Okay.
Do we have to hire her at a higher rate?
Yes, we did.
Oh, okay. Actually, we have 2 new nurses.
We're still in the process of filling the New Hartford Elementary School
Right.
nurse.
Oh, that's the one I was referring to.
Right.
I assume you built in something sufficient for that unknown?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, page 22. Instruction. Page 23. Page 24. Any questions on that? Nothing? All right, moving on to page 25, technology.
are we needing less technical licenses and that's why it went down?
Yes, that's correct.
What's the base, curriculum-based online resources?
Yeah, so that, the biggest driver there was it's for a new mystery science curriculum,
Okay.
as an online component.
Is there a reason why you keep like the purchases for the new computers and stuff in the capital budget as opposed to putting it in the regular budget?
Sure. So that's just been always traditional as far as the expenditure there. And once again, it's over $10,000 and we usually place those purchases, those requests in the capital line, capital plan.
But it seems like that's in the capital budget every year.
It is.
Is it something that shouldn't be budgeted, you think, or
Well, I think it definitely should be in the capital plan.
in the capital plan?
Yeah, as
Not-
far as the computers, as far as the
In the-
Chromebooks, yes,
Right, and not in the regular budget, yearly budget?
that's correct. It's such a large purchase, Tony, that's why we put it in the capital plan, and that's always been the case here in New Hartford.
My thought is just that it seems like if it were in the budget, we wouldn't have to, I mean, like you mentioned, you're saying that this new capital plan this year is pretty big, so we wouldn't have to battle over it.
But then it would be a bigger increase here in the operating
Yeah,
budget.
no, I know we still have to pay for it.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm just
Sure.
throwing that out there, curiosity. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Page 26. If we keep Penny in place, we can save a little money here.
Penny will love that.
So with legal fees, Brian, we're at 21,000 right now as of last interim, the last expenditure report you gave us.
Yep.
We're getting close to the end of the year. That number. Are we gonna be able to live with that $21,000?
Yes. I mean, it should go up a little bit the rest of this year. I mean, you could always get a litigious family, and then you have to call on the attorney. But at this time, we think that we should be in good shape for the rest of this year.
I'd love to see less money spent on legal. Period. If we could somehow wrangle that in. Seems like the largest waste of money, that's just my opinion, obviously, but.
Sure.
That's out of everyone's control, though, right?
What was the majority of that spent on? Just curious.
We had some cases, special education cases, when a parent brings an attorney, which is not all the time, we have to have an attorney sitting at the table. Definitely, the attorney definitely weighed in this past year. Several times this past year.
Plus we had a contract.
We have contracts.
That
We had
adds
the
up.
3 non-certified, yes, Penny, yes. 3 non-certified contract negotiations, yes. We have the teachers next year.
Right. With the administrators, I think took longer this year than previously. Because we had a buddy there come, whatever his name is now. he's-
Marty Weber,
Yes.
our friend.
Yes.
Anything else on 26? All right. Moving on to 27. '28. Brian, what's the equipment in central office? Is that like printers and copiers and things like that?
Yes.
Okay. All right, we ready to move on to 29? School offices. Thirty. All right. Plan operations, page 31. Brian, I know you mentioned on electricity, we're seeing savings with the LED system, but I know the electrical costs are going up. Is that a concern there or no?
No, we think we should be.
You should be okay?
Yeah.
All right, page 32.
Brian, that floor scrubber for $7,000.
Yeah.
Is that a replacement?
Yes. Yep. New, yep. Be a new floor scrubber, yes.
They don't have one. They have one now. It's broken or?
Yes, it doesn't, it's not working efficiently.
How are they doing it now? By hand?
We're using it, but it's not very efficient. It's not cleaning properly.
Is it costing us overtime?
No.
Dirty floor.
Yeah, the floor's not as clean as it needs to be.
What's the water battle filler?
Yeah, those are fillers. We're moving away from the traditional water fountains where you press, put the bottle in, water comes out, take the bottle out.
Oh,
Is that a new one, or I thought we already had those?
We did, but we need another one.
Oh, okay.
Here, thankfully,
So there'll be two of them?
I believe it'll be 3.
Oh, three?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I think it's gonna be 4, there are 3. It's 2 in this hallway, 1 down by the library.
Check.
What's wrong with the ramp by the dumpster?
Yeah, so that is decaying. The custodian brings the garbage in and out of that doorway. It's right in front of the kindergarten classrooms. So we need to replace that.
Okay. Is that, that's wood? Not
Concrete.
from the- Oh, it's concrete back there? Okay.
Didn't we have the curbing repair on last year's budget?
We did, in the capital plan. You have the sidewalk.
Right.
Now, this curbing is right when you come into Bakerville, the parking lot there, towards the main office, there's a curb there that's decaying as well. So it needs to be replaced there.
Is it salt decay or what, would it get hit?
It got hit by the plow.
Yeah, the sidewalk's fine, just the curb.
Exactly.
Plow guy needs to be more careful.
I know, right.
our contract with plowing, doesn't put that responsibility on the plow company?
We always talk to them, they do better, you gotta keep reminding them, but, you know, it does fall on us as far as to repair that.
And replacing with concrete instead of staying with asphalt?
So with that, that's just the piece there at the end.
So it's just
Yeah.
happening every year.
It does happen every year?
Well, I wouldn't know if I characterize it every year, but you have to upkeep that every several years.
We had that on the capital plan last year, and did we spend it?
Yeah, so the capital plan was the sidewalk and over by
Okay.
the playground where it is now. So
Right.
that was much more extensive.
All right, any other questions on that page? Now we'll come to our favorite page. Service contracts. Thank you, Brian, for
You're welcome.
putting the history there. It's not marked, but 33.
So what's the water system solution? Jump of 60%?
Yes, so that's an inspection on the water tanks, and that's an enhanced inspection that happens every few years on that. That's why there's a big increase for that, for next year.
Which tanks are those?
For water tanks at Bakerville and Antolini.
Was it the stand tanks for fire?
What's that?
The stand tanks for fire?
Yeah, up in here at Antolini, yes, for the fire. For the town, yep.
I'm sorry, I think I missed it. What is the cost for? What are they doing?
So they inspect the water tanks, and this is an enhanced inspection of these water tanks for next year. That's why you see a significant increase in that line item for the service contract.
How often do they come? Is it once a year, or they come regularly, and and they have one big inspection?
Yeah, it'll be one big inspection.
16K is a lot of money.
I know,
You get a lot of inspection for 16K.
I know.
Are they going in the tanks with scuba? Oh, I'm serious.
Yeah, I have to tell
I mean,
you.
for 16K, what are they doing? Honestly.
I don't know all the specifics as far as the inspection, but
Is that required for
Yeah.
our fire safety system?
yes, we have to do that, yes,
Appropriately, correct?
yes.
So it's not a cost we can really pay them to get rid of, right?
Oh, I'm just asking, we should get a quote or two.
Is there any adults that could do it
Sure, there's other people that could do it.
for maybe less money?
You could take a look at that.
That's all three schools, right?
Two schools,
Two
Bakerville and
The Hartford's on,
City of Water.
Oh, right, okay.
$8,000 per school for inspection. And again, materials.
they go down with their tanks and their rubber ducks.
Right, what,
I said they go down with their tanks, scuba tanks and rubber ducks.
oh, I know.
It's a lot.
Is that the company's water system solution? That's the name
Yeah,
of something?
that's a company, yeah. Watertown.
So my other favorite one, Brian, is Enviromed Services, asbestos and radon testing.
Yeah.
11,850. How many times can we test the same materials for asbestos? Asbestos doesn't just appear.
You know, so,
It's either there or it's not there. Radon, again, that could happen.
right,
But asbestos, if it was in this floor adhesive, is there or it's not there.
yeah.
It doesn't change.
Right, exactly. Only if it's disturbed, as you know.
Well, that's when it gets airborne, right? But
Right.
again, the material, if you're,
So we have to test this, and they come in during the course of the year and just inspect it. It's been disrupted at all, but like you said, 99.9% of the time, it's not going to be
so they're
disrupted.
inspecting, they're inspecting identified asbestos
Yes,
materials.
that's correct.
That's what this is.
That's correct.
A whole lot of money.
We're required to do that?
Yes.
I would imagine that would be, do you have a report of what for each of the schools?
Yes.
I'd like to see that if I could.
Sure.
Is there asbestos at all three schools? Or is it just this Bakersville?
Especially at Bakerville. I'll get you those reports.
I bet you that.
Yeah.
In all three, based on the age of the schools. Yeah. Whether it's out in the open or it's in mechanical spaces, it's,
The asbestos?
yeah.
Oh.
Yep.
I mean, I understand Bakerville's just such an old school, but,
There's still asbestos containing materials today.
oh,
They're just not made in the US.
So we've been spending 10 grand a year for how many years inspecting this, right?
You get to a point where
Every year.
Why don't we just mitigate it,
depends how much, that's why.
That's,
Ask for the
Right.
report, how much do we have?
right?
that's expensive, but
No, understood, but then then you're
More
not,
expensive?
then you're not looking anymore.
It is, but you think that you could phase out through the capital
Phase out.
plan, some of it, right? You can't hit it all at one time, but at least you could phase it out through our capital.
Depends on where it is too, right? And
Yeah.
You have to rebuild walls or,
No, it's mostly, sometimes, it's, you'll find, PCBs, again, I don't know how deep they go, but you could find PCBs in paint that's on that block wall right there.
right?
Find asbestos in insulation elbows in your mechanical spaces.
Right.
A lot of tile, ceilings, like I said, over at Bakerville, the ceiling, the 12 by 12 ceiling tiles, the adhesives back then were asbestos. So, could be. But you'd think, again, if you're paying that kind of money year after year, you can phase them out through capital. And
those are the adhesives they put on board tiles too?
it was actual floor tiles themselves.
Oh, it is?
Yeah, most of the time. Yep. But in Antolina, I don't think you have that problem based on
Yeah.
just walking around there.
I like your idea about putting it into capital, trying phasing it out.
Don't let this stuff get into this.
Brian, going back to the water systems, are they just inspecting the tanks or are they doing,
we're just inspecting.
do they inspect the sprinklers and the whole system or
Sure, yes, the whole system.
the whole system?
Yes.
Are they doing any repairs or
No.
nothing?
But where the sprinklers just here,
Sprinkles at Bakerville.
there are?
Yeah.
When you say sprinkler, you're talking fire protection. that building.
Fire
Yeah,
protection.
yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
So if we have tanks, it means we have a pump too.
Yeah.
So I imagine this is probably testing the pump
Yes, yeah.
in addition to the tanks.
Yeah.
Right, because that needs to be regularly exercised.
What's E-rate services? You mean like 6 or 7?
Application processing assistance. So this budget we got last time had some descriptions of what these are.
Oh,
When we expanded,
Up here.
when he gave us the,
On the new budget, he has all
oh,
explanations. Looks like it might have to do with filing the taxes.
What's an E-rate?
It's internet services.
Anything else? Service contracts? All right, moving on to page 34. Brian, the increase over the years on maintenance supplies, what's that due to?
So last year, you were able to use some COVID-19 relief funds to decrease that, so now we're making up for it as far as the gap for next year, maintenance supply.
Okay. Anything else on 34? All right, page 35. We don't have anything more firm on the insurance, right, at this point?
That's correct. Budgeted at 6% increase right now.
Well, I'm gonna get on the phone with them again. Start pulling a fast one. Brian, the increase in Social Security and Medicare, if we cut, I guess it's relative to the salaries, right? Cut one position, but the salary increases make it go up. Okay. Anything else on 35? All right, 36. Moving on to transportation, page 37. Now, is this our first year in the new lease?
It is, yes. First year of 4.
So Brian, here's where I was asking about 11,000 and minus 6 special ed.
Yep.
Compared, and then you add that to the 50.
Yeah, they don't add up.
So you had the special education bus leases
You're 56 minus 11.
And
Still
all
not gonna get the right number.
the special education line items.
Right, special ed came up to 50 grand, plus or minus. And this one comes with special ed buses at 11, and then a minus 6 for special ed summer grants. Right?
Yep.
You're plus 5 there.
Yep.
You got 55 for special ed.
Something special ed credit, wasn't it negative?
Well, it was like an ad. That's 115,000 in that front page, that's all.
So what I'll do is, I will send the board all the special education line items that we pulled from. So how we arrived at that 14,000, I will send it to the entire board that we pulled from.
I think that would be helpful.
Right, it's minus, right? Yeah, right.
Yeah, Just minus 50 plus another minus 6, you're minus 56.
Plus the
Plus
11.
11,
Right.
Right.
not getting the 14.
That's what
But I think it'd be helpful to get
Sure.
the budget numbers. Right. The identifiers of each line items. Might help for each one of these, Brian.
That's a good point. I think that would be. I assume it's pulling in from somewhere, right?
That's correct. Yep, specific line items are pulled in.
Yeah, that'd be
Just to
great.
give that quick snapshot on that page.
Yep. Yeah, having those numbers for each one of those lines would be perfect. Anything else on page 37? Page 38. And finally, the capital on 39.
Could we do without taking that parking lot this year, next year?
That's a great question, Penny. So we've had 2 plant facility and transportation committee meetings. Talking with the Principal Shaw of Antolini School. I've had this on the capital plan the last several years. So the answer is unequivocally yes, we need to pave. And then next year, we need to pave the parking, the staff parking lot, because it's definitely needed. So it is a 1.9% increase. Inflation, the last year is 7%. This is a 1.9% increase as far as our operating budget. I think the time is ripe to put this, and needed to put this in our capital plan for next year. I understand it's a big expenditure, usually about $130,000, $130,000 each year. Once again, it is needed, and these costs always go up every year. So, but that's a great question because I know it's an increased capital plan for next year.
And Brian, where does what's the town's responsibility on the driveway up from the?
So they're responsible for up to the stop sign.
Up to the stop sign, which, okay.
Now, can we do anything about the cars that line up there every single afternoon? Starting at 2:15, I know who's in that first car.
Penny, that's a beautiful question. And yes, we spent last night at our Plant Facility and Transportation Committee meeting with Principal Shaw. In the committee, we have a lot of suggestions, and we're looking to change those procedures and continue to monitor it. Because yes, that is very challenging for parents. It's a safety issue as far as cars lining up all the way down the driveway. So we're looking, we have solutions to that. We'll continue to monitor that.
Because when those cars are lined up, there's only one pathway. And if you had a bus coming up and maybe a ambulance, God forbid, going down, there's no road.
Absolutely. That's a great point. Yes.
I mean, we don't need those cars on that road.
So we're going to stagger the times and hopefully to eliminate
Okay.
the backup there.
And tell people they don't need to be here 3/4 of an hour early.
It's a great point.
I think for me, you take a nap.
With the paving, have you factored in, next year's costs are probably going to be higher than they are this year, and who knows how much higher as far as oil and cost of the actual asphalt and everything?
Yes, we take that into consideration. Yeah.
And is there a plan for maintenance after?
We'll take a look at that. We didn't get to that point. And I'd like to thank Tom, Tim, and Tony. They're experts in that field and
Yes,
provided
thank
a
you.
lot of great suggestions.
We gotta redo them.
Any other questions on the capital budget?
Let's just hope the Board of Finance likes it.
Would you like to make a motion?
No? I'd be happy with a 0 increase, but, just me.
All right, everyone good with capital at this point? All right, if we're ready to, I mean, I'd like to entertain a motion to approve the budget as presented. I think we need to just get a better understanding of that summary tab. But I don't think those numbers are going to change.
I'll make that one.
Do you want me to make a motion? You want me to? Do you want to say it out loud?
You want me to tell
I
you
will-
what words I wrote for your motion?
What's that?
You want me to tell you the words I wrote? for
That
your
works.
motion?
Yeah, absolutely.
A motion to approve the 2022-2023 New Hartford Public School Board of Education budget.
We should say
In
the amount,
of,
Got it.
$9,045,782.
I'll copy it.
Can we make part of that motion to approve the capital budget as well? That
Why
200,
don't we do that separately?
okay, we can do it separate. Is there a second?
Second.
Kelly seconds. Any discussion?
To Penny's point, I mean, obviously, Brian, this is a small increase considering the 7% increase in cost of living right now. But we are gonna get questions on the capital. And we need those capital because if we don't maintain our schools, it's just gonna get worse. So I guess my question is there a place? I know you're gonna say no, but that's the wrong answer, as that's what you always say. But there's gotta be a place to cut a little bit of money to knock this down, to make it a little more palatable, because we already know what we're gonna hear about the capital plan.
So great question, Tom. And yes, great prediction. It's a very lean budget. It's a very responsible budget, 1.9%. I understand your point, but I stand by it, and I hope the board will support that because there's not any other areas to cut at this time. I think you look at other districts, they'll be significantly larger than our operating cost increase. So, but I understand the question. I appreciate the question, but I stand by the operating budget.
I don't think that's what Tom said. Did he?
Yes, he's asking if there's any areas to cut, and I'm saying there's not at this time.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you know they'll ask you that.
I understand, that's the Board of Finance's role and job, and it's my job to advocate and push for
Okay.
what's needed for the students of New Hartford Public Schools.
There's one part of the budget that I'm a little concerned about, and that's the kindergarten class. If we do need an extra teacher there, depending on the class size, I know it's not a huge amount of money, but
Well, you would need you're 8 students away from that, right?
potentially.
But we do not have 52 students registered at this time either, so.
So that was going by what, birth records and just trends?
Both, yes, Penny. Birth certificates 5 years ago, and the trends the last few years, which we always had 7 or 8 students to that. So,
My point is, I wouldn't want to, that's a risk on the budget, and I wouldn't want to have to go back to the Board of Finance asking for another
Right.
teacher.
So if I was to ask for a list of $50,000 worth of cuts to present to us, for us to analyze, and that would be your, obviously the things that you could live with, but don't want to live with. That's basically what I was asking. I don't want to put bait the hook, but we also need to be prepared.
Sure.
Because it's going to happen.
Sure.
We already know it is.
Sure.
We're asking for $250,000 worth of capital improvement.
Yeah.
And they're going to want, the town's going to want, or the Board of Finance, or both, going to want something.
So as always, I think we wait, and if the Board of Finance, then we come back to the table if that's the case.
Well, I mean, I look at this too. I mean, I'm looking at just page 8, that you've got $327,000 in contractual and increases associated with contracts, with health insurance, medical, dental. Right, so this isn't a budget where I see increased spending. I'm seeing quite a bit of cuts to be able to maintain a 1.9. I agree that $250,000 is a lot of money. Right? It's big capital, but again, we do need to maintain the building. Right? If you look at that parking lot, see with your eyes, there's an issue with it. Right? Technology is a big part of learning today, right? Which is another big part of the capital. So as I look at this, yes, they're going to ask. They're always going to ask, but this, as I look at it, is not cost increases that are just being brought forward. These are actual cost increases mainly due to contractual and bus leases and medical and dental.
I agree, Tim. I think it's driven by contractual.
$327,000, right? Let
Right.
all else equal, you have a much larger percentage of increase.
And that bus contract, I can't remember, does it go down as the years progress?
It does not.
It
Goes
stays
up.
at the,
It goes up.
oh, it goes up.
But this is,
But it's our pathway to,
and we aligned it with
right,
Region 7.
pathway to alignment. There's not much we can do. I mean, we can't do anything about those contractual costs. We're stuck with them. So I agree with you, Tim. I think Brian did a great job finding other
Thank you.
ways to offset our contractual increases. Any other discussion?
Ready to vote.
All right. The motion is to approve the budget at the 1.99% increase with the dollar amount, $9,045,782 for calendar year 22-23, and bring it to the Board of Finance. All in favor? Deirdre? Sorry, I didn't see you guys. Unanimous. Oh, I'm sorry, Tom. Opposed? And abstains. So only Tom.
Okay, everybody else said yes?
Yep.
Did you want the 1.9% or just the 9 million,
I would put the dollar amount.
just the dollar amount? Yeah, I think that's how we usually do
Yep.
anyways.
All right, can I have a motion on the similar motion on the capital plan?
I'll motion to approve the capital plan as presented. In the amount of $250,000.
Second? Anyone?
Second.
Tim? All right, discussion. We already sort of discussed this one, but
So when does this get presented to the Board of Finance?
March 8th,
Do we have a Board of Ed meeting before then?
we do, March 1st.
So why are we rushing this vote through tonight?
I do not think it's a rush. I think we've reviewed the budget these last 3 meetings, starting in January. So I do asking and recommending that the board does approve the capital plan as presented.
Okay.
any other discussion on the capital plan?
Brian, with the 123, how will that be? That'll go out to bid, correct?
That's correct.
With the defined scope of work?
Yes.
Will that be prepared by the facilities subcommittee or yourself or
I would
combination thereof?
I would prepare that, and I'll ask for any advice in writing that as well to the subcommittee.
So if we approve this and you you send your RFP out and it comes in at $100,000, the $23,000 goes where?
So that would stay in our coffers, and that would be in an account that any surplus we've had in the capital plan over the years stays in that account if needed moving forward.
Is there a current?
There's about $15,000 in there.
Why wouldn't it go in with the 100 grand that we have?
That's totally separate accounts.
Oh,
It's the capital, that's a non-expenditure account.
okay. What, the 100,000?
That's correct.
What about Tim's idea of placing the Chromebooks into the regular budget. Is there any path towards that or reason behind trying to do that?
It's all in the same bucket when you combine, as far as the education expenses, the capital plan and operating budget is delineated with that, so I don't see any benefit in doing that.
And aren't the regular budget items under a certain dollar amount, or if they're over a certain dollar amount, it goes into capital?
That's right. Over $10,000, they go into the capital.
I mean, I agree that the 250 is a big number, but I also agree with Tim, you know, this is where we need to spend our money to maintain our facilities.
Dan's got some extra money, right?
Yeah, a lot of it.
Right? I just know what to do with it all.
Maybe he can help us pay.
Like Tim, how you're thinking.
What did you say? I didn't hear you.
So Dan can help us defray some of these costs.
Oh, sure. Dream on.
All right, any other discussion on the capital? Nope. Everyone know the motion? All right. All in favor of the motion to approve the capital plan at 250? Deirdre? I think how many did you raise?
Yeah, I did.
Okay, unanimous. All right, thank you, everybody. We
Thank
will
you.
Bring that to the board of finance, and go on from there. Moving on to the consent agenda. So we have the last two meeting minutes to approve. Anyone have any issues with those?
I make a motion we approve the consent agenda.
Tony seconds. Any discussion? All in favor? Deirdre's in favor.
I'm abstaining.
Tom's abstaining. Motion passes. And we have gotten to the end here. Thank you, everybody, for your patience. Thank you for staying in the audience.
Motion to adjourn at 8:58.
Second, Mary. All in favor? We are good to go. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Good night, Deirdre.